Reloaded, and as the title says, spoilers for those who care. So we're going to get into it in 3, 2, 1. Did I call it on LOL? Let me ask you that. Did I call? I was probably the only one. I'm doing that. The only one who said, hey, she looks a lot like LOL. She looks a lot like Data's daughter. I'm telling you guys, I'm smarter than I look. Not hard to do, but I am smarter than I look. We're going to be taking a look at the actual episode tonight and just breaking it down, getting into it for those who have not seen it and are here just because they're curious if they should. I do think you should. The only reason that I don't tell people to pay for it right now is because I worry that this positive trajectory will be instantly turned around next episode. Discovery did that, where they got a lot better. They had 3 or 4 episodes that were really really on point, and then they just went right down to hell. They just like, you know what? We're getting a lot of positive feedback from old Trekkies who liked this, and people who probably are conservative. Let's turn that around. Let's Ducat this up and make sure that no one of that stripe will ever like it. So, if it continues its positive trajectory, definitively you guys should watch it. I would suggest I would pay CBS All Access if everything we see in the future is basically what we've found in episode 1. So I'm going to be going through scene by scene, or at least every couple of scenes, breaking down what I saw. Some of this will be nitpicking. There's a couple of questions and things that don't make sense within the episode that can be explained in the future, possibly. But even if it's not, the episode is so good that these blaring issues, I don't think, impact it. And there is one that's huge, that absolutely, positively breaks the entire episode, unless they explain it in the future, which they may be. But let's just get right into it. Let's go. What's going on, Instant Ricky? Instant Ricky, I'm glad you're back, buddy. You went MIA there for a little while, so I'm glad you're back. All right, so let's do this and this. I think my audio should be 5x5, but let me know. Well, good, Jade. It's going to be starting like almost immediately if you haven't gotten it already, so I would definitely go. But thanks for dropping by. I appreciate it. Okay, so the first couple of scenes, you can instantly, one of the things that happens is you do get an instant reaction to if you like it or not. And I was trepidatious when it came to the beginning of the episode. I wasn't really a fan of the way it started, and the showing of the Enterprise D, which is, by the way, awesome. It's a great shot. I'm glad they brought it back for this. Feels like it's nothing but pandering, if I'm being honest. And I think it is. I think it's pandering to people who like the Enterprise D, who like TNG. As you guys know, this is him having a dream, or a part of a dream sequence, which is kind of interesting. I wonder why he went with the Enterprise D instead of the Sovereign. Maybe he looks at the Enterprise E as the beginning of the end, when things got very real. And this may be me looking a little bit into it, and I would love your opinions on this. Is this a look at his psyche on how he portrays Starfleet? Remember, when he was on the Enterprise D, during his quote-unquote reign, before DS9, it was a part of the Golden Age, right? The Golden Era. I've talked about this before, where the Federation was largely uncontested. The people they fought were so pitiful that the weapons that the Cardassians used couldn't even destroy a vessel when its shields were down. It was the height of the Federation's reign, in a way. Now, I've talked about how it's really a Gilded Cage type deal, a Gilded Era, where it really wasn't as fancy as it came off as. But that's the way it felt. That's the way everyone thought. It was exploration. We're not a military. And so by him having a dream sequence on the Enterprise D, I wonder if this is his nostalgia coming in. You know, I'm not sure that the writers did that much effort in thinking in it, but if I was going to write Picard as a broken person, this is probably how I would do it. I wouldn't have him on the Enterprise E. I'd put him on the Enterprise D during what he would have considered the golden age, and what he would have thought, regardless of what truth is, what he would have thought was the good old days. I don't know if they did that on purpose. I think it's a good touch. It looks awesome. It's honestly more fan service than anything else, if I had to guess. Yeah, I know Bird of Prey 5. It's kind of crazy. They're pandering to Trekkies. That just never happens. No, this is an alternate timeline. This all is in continuity and all of that. All right. So let's move it up just a little bit. This is the sequence everybody has seen, where you have Picard playing poker with Data. There's a couple of things to this. I actually do like the back and forth between the two. It kind of shows where Picard left off when he left TNG. He's playing poker, which was the last scene we saw in The Next Generation, the series. And I talked about this in the non-spoilers, but I'll address the Discoverse thing in a second. I talked about this in the non-spoilers, but if you watch Picard, when he started out, his character wasn't as relatable. He was really focused on Starfleet, on Federation, on the Prime Directive. He always kept a distance from people. He was standoffish to a degree. He was professional. He cared about people, but he always had a wall. And so the progression of his arc and the summation of his character came in the last scene of TNG when he finally let people in and he finally started being a part of his crew. And so I think we get that here, the camaraderie and everything. I think it's a nice nod to TNG. And the back and forth is actually pretty interesting. I like the conversation with Data when it comes to talking about what Data, how Data has tells and stuff and things. I don't know how it ties in, or if it ties in at all. But I did actually enjoy that. Also, the cinematography is pretty good too. Look at that, using that rule of thirds. Our eye goes here. We still have stuff off here. Look at that. Now, let me address something that came up. Somebody said Discoverse, or is it not a part of the Prime continuity, whatever. I don't know if you're trying to bait me or not, but based on the actual definition of canon and continuity, if you think Discoverse or Star Trek Picard is not a part of the same timeline as the others, you're wrong. You simply are. Discovery and Picard are both within continuity, both canon, whatever. It fits in with TNG. I won't say fits in. It is in the same universe as TNG, DS9, Enterprise, all of it. If you don't like that that's a fact, that's not my problem. It is, in fact, your problem. But that's just the way it is. I will agree Discovery doesn't make any sense, but hey, a lot of Enterprise doesn't make sense. Some DS9 doesn't make sense, and the first two seasons of TNG don't fit at all. So it is what it is. All right. This is not TNG timeline. Yeah, it is, Audioholics. I would actually say it's more, I'd say it's better than a 7 out of 10. I'd say it's an 8 or 9 out of 10. And honestly, I think it's the best opening for a series in Trek specifically that has occurred. This would be the number one opener for Trek series. I think it blows TOS, TNG, DS9, Voyager out of the water. So, the next part of any real consequence is... Hold on. 1 second. You guys shouldn't be hearing this. If you are, I'm in trouble. Wait for it. Wait for it. There it is. The scene we've seen in the trailers. Now, the one thing I will say, unfortunately, is the marketing here is on par. Not on par. Well, it's on par or beats what DC did. they gave way too much. And we'll kind of discuss that a little bit as we're going through. Marketing really, at the end of the day, gave way too much information. It's kind of funny, because at the beginning, I didn't think they gave enough. And then they spoiled the living hell out of stuff. And I don't think they should have. And so, looking at this is, of course, the attack on Mars. From a storytelling aspect, everybody's already seen it. We already know. We've seen Children of Mars, so we know what's going on with that. I honestly just like the cinematography. I think this is very well done. Very cinematic. You guys don't care about that, though. Since I'm the film student, I'm the only one that really gives a real care about it. But it shows shows the destruction of Mars, his emotions and reactions to it. And again, we're using that wonderful rule of thirds, which is always just excellently done. Not really. And by the way, I will respond to you guys, so if you have any questions or catch it, do at lore reloaded for me so I can see it pop up if there's something specific. Put lore reloaded together or it won't, it won't matter. What about the fact the Enterprise E uniforms on the Enterprise D? Are they the Enterprise D uniforms? I wouldn't have noticed. They are! Huh. Hold on. I didn't even notice that. That was a good catch. Wow, you should actually be doing this, not me. It's a good catch, Bird of Prey. And you know, they could have actually used the older uniforms. Even if they had to do the newer ones that they made, they actually went out of their way to do the older one. I guess it's the way that he remembered him. And it could go to what some of you guys are saying. Is that it's part of his regret, because that would be the uniform that Data died in, right? So I guess I can kind of see the regret angle, especially with the uniform he has. I would still argue that it does go back to nostalgia to a degree. But yeah, that's a good catch. Yeah, and that's what we're talking about. It's probably what he saw Data in last. It's a good catch. Man, you should do this for a living, Bird of Prey. The next couple of ones aren't all that intriguing to me. It shows him on the vineyard, shows him waking up. It's everything we saw before. One thing that was kind of interesting, there was some people upset talking about how, oh, it's all automated and stuff. You actually see people out here working that aren't just his two caretakers. So, yeah. They use the older uniforms in the next dream sequence. Okay, well, that's cool. When we get to the next dream sequence, we will discuss the next dream sequence, Bird of Prey. Relax. Relax, buddy. It's an old man's dream, so it makes sense he'd mix stuff up. Yeah, it could be. I mean, again, we may be looking more into it. I honestly interpret that. Interpret him using the Enterprise D because that was the golden age for him. And then again, maybe that's how he remembers Data being in that uniform would make sense. Dreams also aren't consistent and don't have continuity to them, so I'm not too upset about that. I can't really see anyone ever getting upset about that, honestly. There is something that is really... it counters a lot of what we see. The next scene that we see counters a lot of what we see in TNG and DS9. But I think it's consistent with what we would see in a post-DS9, post-Nemesis world. And so, if we go here, we have Daj with her boyfriend, right? Who apparently has coffee bean hair. Which is awesome, I guess. So, the important piece right here is he's killed. Now, this is completely counter to everything we know historically with Star Trek. The original series, all the way up to Voyager, talks about how Earth is paradise, right? How Earth, there is no crime, there is no pain, there is no suffering, nothing like that. And obviously, this is occurring. Also, unlike the bright tones we saw in the original, we see nothing but darker tones here. Like, everything is gray. Everything is brown. A lot of shadows. Hold on, I'm trying to find the one piece here. All right. Here it is. You have a lot of, I guess the light is gone. Now, if this was pre DS9 or even during DS9, um, I would say that uh, it would be inconsistent and it would be inaccurate. In fact, if you remember, Cisco's dad was amazed that any crime would happen on Earth. It isn't thought of. However, in a post-Dominion war, when the Federation ideal is set up against so much evil, and you have officers that died by the tens to hundreds of thousands, and you had people who were forced to do things that they had never done before, I think it leaves a stain. And I think the change that happens on Earth where crime actually occurs and where crime isn't something that surprises anyone. Because remember, Picard isn't surprised that crime occurred. If it was still the paradise we remember, he would have been aghast that would have happened. So I think that we see a very changed Federation and Starfleet and a place where crime now can occur. And I think that's prevalent. Now, here's one piece. And I'm going to look at your comments and I'll start addressing them in just a second. Here's one piece that I think is extremely interesting. And it's the subtext here. One of the things I hate about Discovery is it's in your face. It is just, oh my God, look at this. Trump is so bad, blah, blah, blah. Even if I think Trump's bad, it's just so in your face and it makes a parody. Star Trek Picard hasn't done that yet. I think that this is an interesting, and whether it was meant to or not, I think it is an interesting look and study on what happens to the evolved human when they're put up against evil, and then how they have to deal with that. And the subtext that ultimately evil or crime can come back even to evolved people who are above it if they don't watch for it, if they let it happen to a degree. I'd be interested in your guys' thoughts on that. So, taking a look at what you wonderful people have to say. We'll go back to it in a second. I just want to make sure that we're looking at what you guys are talking about, because, as I said, you're absolute champions. Normally I like your analysis, but Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Picard is Kelvin time. It's not Audioholics, so I mean, unfortunately, it's not. What you decide to fanon or do in your mind is up to you, but by definition, it's not. He's the same species as the aliens from the short trek and Runaway. Okay, yeah, it was a different species. I didn't recognize the species. I think the movie uniform is because of Data's death. The TNG uniform is where we saw Data painting. It stands to reason that's how Picard sees it. Okay. Crime occurs now because Kurtzman declared gelato machines non-canon, so in the universe, they were outlawed. Well, I mean, that's basically what happens. It's like when you outlawed alcohol. It just causes more crime. So, I mean, you're right. Everyone in Starfleet is a jerk now. No, they were always jerks. They were always jerks. Honestly, do not see how Disco had been calling Trump bad, but that's a discussion for another live stream. It is. It is. Make the empire great again. It absolutely is. And I think if you don't see it, then you weren't looking for it or your bias shows. I'm not saying that to you, Blaine Smith. I'm just saying most people. All right. So I guess we'll continue on then and go from there. Getting stuff back on. All right. So they then try to put something on her. No idea what the hell that is. She then goes all combat and kills everybody. A lot of people... So when I saw this, I knew that a lot of people were going to get upset about that. And go the Mary Sue, oh, they're making a woman great. And at the expense of males trope. I don't know if they're doing that or not. But here's why it doesn't matter to me. I don't mind if a character is better at something or is unrealistically better at something if you can write it well in storytelling. Michael was never written well and was always written poorly when it came to these things. Daj is not. In fact, versus Michael, Daj, while she goes Manchurian, what is it? A Manchurian client or whatever it's called, Manchurian candidate on these guys. She is freaking out. She has no idea what's happening. It is taking a huge emotional toll. This is a good way to write it. If you're going to write a character that can do everything but doesn't understand why, her being so emotionally traumatized by it is very well done. Is amazingly done. Let's see. Again, she gets upset because her boyfriend's dead and such, which obviously I guess you're going to get upset about that. That seems reasonable. We then have the intro. I finally watched it. I didn't watch it on the first one. I don't like the intro. I do think the intro is bad, let's say. We then have Picard speaking French, which is one of the most contrived things I've ever seen on planet Earth. You're making him speak French because he's always supposed to be French, but he's not. He is Brench at the most, but I don't even think he's that. You have the dog, which is kind of cool. I'm just going to skip over a lot of that. I'll be honest with you. Here, let me see if I can get a good image of it. Where? You see his normal day-to-day, which is fine. It gives us a little bit of insight into what he's like. But the best characters, in my opinion, and I can't get them together, can I? Let me see. Oh, I love that the dog caught a bird, too. I thought that was so funny. There it is. I like the fact that the dog caught the bird, and they were talking about that and how it's normal for animals to catch birds and not freaking out about it. What's going on, Rock Solid Productions? Hope you're doing well. And it was bad French too. He wasn't speaking it well. The two best characters ever are right here, I think. Honestly, these are the breakout characters. I love the two Romulan caretakers. I hope to God they stay. I don't think they will, but man, I would love the two Romulan caretakers to have a major role. I think they're excellent. I love the camaraderie the three of these have together. It really feels like they've been together for years and years. The writing is excellent. They're there to support each other. You can just tell that something exists. This is the scene with all three of these. The scenes with all three of these is honestly the best parts of this from an acting standpoint and from a realistic standpoint. Are the best scenes in the episode, in my opinion. Now, they don't add a lot story-wise, but I really do like them. Men in America don't have any issues with strong women. What men usually have issues with is people who are trying to say that they're trying to make things right, taking over and just doing what the people before did and trying to claim that it's not, usually. So... and badly written characters. I never was a fan of the evolved human trope. To me, it doesn't make sense in a dangerous galaxy. Most TNG characters, in my mind, came across as arrogant and condescending. I think a lot of people agreed with that. I think that's why TNG is a favorite of a lot of people, because it's the most realistic. It is. And yeah, if you haven't, I would suggest reading it. To my understanding, these two are the two Tal Shiar Romulan spies in the comics, the Picard timeline. I've done a breakdown on each of those comics that have come out. I'd suggest reading them. If you like these two, it'll add something to it, I think. All right. I just hope Picard is not going crazy and imagining the two Romulans. I don't think he is. I think those two caretakers. In fact, if the comics are canon, then they actually are the caretakers now, because there was a scene where it started out with them. That would really hurt it for me. I agree. If they weren't real, but I think they are. In fact, they have to be, because Daj interacts with them. So They're not. They have to be real. Supernova destroying a planet. Let's see. Ta-da. All right. We keep going. We then have a really interesting scene. Which is coming up. So let's talk about this. You have the media, someone from the news, introducing and talking to Picard. And this scene is... I think this scene is very socially motivated. I think this scene is... I don't think it's political. I do think it's trying to make a statement. And I was honestly surprised to... There's a couple of things here. There's a couple of things that some would see as leaning left, leaning like some would say is left propaganda. And then the overall meeting itself is, some might say, would be right propaganda. I don't think it is, but I'm saying if someone's going to get upset, if someone's going to get sensitive, there are things in this that both people on the right and the left are going to get upset about. What I love about this is this right here is how you tackle social issues in Trek. I don't know what the hell happened to the Discovery writers, because in this episode is overall very well done. It's subtle, like we see in Trek. A lot of Trek in TNG and DS9 and the original series. A lot of it, well, the original series not as much, but there was some. It was subtle in the way that it tackled arguments. So you see these two having a conversation, and the woman to the left basically is representing the media, because she is. And she's slimy, and she's greedy. She lies to him. She says she's not going to talk about something, and she does. She's just trying to get ratings. It's really the very perception of everyone's opinions on how media runs. I swear, when I look at her, when I look at the Federation News Network based on her, I see CNN. I see Fox News. To a degree. Now, it's definitely CNBC, MSNBC, and those. I think CNN and Fox News do it too. But man, this type of reporting, I bet she never talked about Epstein at all. I bet she wouldn't bring him up in any way. So, but here's the thing. There's a couple of things in here that I think really speak to both sides. So she's talking about how Picard wanted to go and save the Romulans. And when you listen to her dialogue, she is such a skeezy, horrible individual. He talks about how he wants to go and save lives, and she even comments on that. She says Romulan lives. She like them being Romulan matters. He wanted to go and save lives. She comes off as bigoted. She comes off as caring about racial points versus the actual reasons to go and not go. And interestingly, she blames him in a way. She says, you left the Enterprise to go help the Romulans, and look at what happened to Mars. Like that would at any point, like he could at any point have had any impact on that, or would have known that Mars was going to quote unquote burn, which it's still burning today. It cost near 100,000 lives, and it's still on fire to this day. Utopia Planitia is gone. She also, and another point that comes up, they go out of their way to point out the difference between Romulans and others, synthetics and others. She talks about synths or synthetics, and how they were shut down. Picard talks about how he disagrees with that. And then she points out that Data was a synthetic. Forget her color for a second. Change the word synthetic to black or Jewish or white or whatever you want to change it to, and then run the dialogue again. She says, she said something, this is paraphrasing, she said, and let's just change it. Let's change the word synth to, I don't care what, Jewish. She says, after what happened on Utopia Planitia, Starfleet stopped allowing any other Jewish people. And then she says, wait a second, Data was Jewish, wasn't he? Do you still have faith in him? If you change it to a race or an ethnicity or whatever, it shows how much, how horrific this person is. And I do think that it somewhat mirrors thought on some issues that are happening in the real world. So again, it's layers upon layers. It's subtle. It's putting both sides up against each other. She isn't presented as the bad guy. She's just presenting bad arguments of which he's countering. It never goes out of its way to look at the camera and say, make the Federation great again, or any stupid ass shit like that. What it does is it shows how these ideas can be bad. That's excellent. That's great. These are Discovery writers. The people who wrote Discovery wrote this. It makes me wonder what the hell happened on Discovery. It honestly does. Sorry, I know I'm not ranting necessarily, but I'm not interacting with you guys as much. So we'll go back, see if you guys have anything really to add to that. But what's going on, Zimako? I'm doing it just for you. Yeah, but what are your guys' opinions on this? I don't know if Brent Spiner is Jewish or not. We don't know if Geordi is dead. If Utopia Planitia was destroyed in 100,000, it's possible he did die. But that's not confirmed yet. The Federation's banning synthetic life forms is such a huge step backwards from Picard's legal battle to affirm Data's rights as sentient beings. That's another point. So let's talk about that for a second. It goes backwards both ways. First off, from what we can tell, from what we see, it looks like the synthetics. By the way, there's 112 people watching and only 28 likes. Do you guys not like me that much? They create synthetics. They create a slave race. They create a slave race that they put to work. And then the synthetics go rogue. And so not only have we backtracked, and then they say, you know what, we're going to ban all synthetics. So they go back and make a slave race that is totally undoes everything we saw in the courtroom, and then they just create them all together. Now, there's a good question here. If they ban synthetic life forms, does the Doctor fall into that? That's a good question. I don't know if the Doctor falls into that. I was wondering that myself. It hasn't been addressed. I would be interested. Please read my comment that I will write below, says Yosef. Well, if you give me a second, I will read your comment, and then we'll get back into it. I don't think they deactivate the Doctor, given that he's sentient. Other Doctors, I'm not sure. Sounds like this show is hot garbage. I disagree. I think it's really well done. If they could guarantee that the rest of the series would be like this, I would suggest getting CBS All Access. Because if you think this show is hot garbage, then you would think that TNG and DS9 is hot garbage. Because it is TNG and DS9. TNG and DS9 did this exact same thing. And some of the episodes, In the Pale Moonlight, The Measure of a Man, all of them did what we see here. And so if you think it's hot garbage, then you probably don't like... I'd be surprised if you like Star Trek. So Mars is burning. No, they actually attacked the Mars as well, and the gas and vapors that they were using to terraform it, I guess, caught fire. What about the photonics? Yeah, we don't know. I discussed that before. I'm waiting for Yosef to respond. If you guys see what Yosef said, let me know, and then I'll read it. And then we can just keep it moving. Keep it moving. Ooh, what about the exocomps? They'd probably be gone. They're synthetics. Starfleet revoked an entire race's right to exist, and I think they're writing for Picard to explain it's no longer Starfleet. It's just effing amazing. we so we don't know a lot about Starfleet just yet. However, from what I see from this episode alone, Starfleet is not acting outside of itself. So, Starfleet, they changed the shuttles from Disco ones to TNG. I didn't notice that either. I'll have to take a look. Starfleet would absolutely shut down a race of people or would not help others if it seemed like the danger was too great. That is Starfleet Admiral MO. So I would, I can actually see that. Now, depending on how they explain it or show it in future episodes, I may not agree with it, but we'll have to see. All right. So if you guys see Yosef, let me know. Repeat what Yosef says. Well, I hope I'm wrong, but this seems to me like they're taking Trek back to tell a story that is relevant to today. I would suggest watching it. I honestly would. I honestly would. And then if you don't like it, that's fair enough, but I just don't think so. I saw multiple US videos from the Trek channels. Many of the reviews see it through an American lens using words like slavery, space Mexicans, but ignore previous in Trek lore. Oh, okay, so here's what I'm saying. I saw multiple US videos from the Trek channels. Many of the reviews see it through an American lens. Well, I mean, we are American. Using words like slavery, space Mexican, but ignore previous in Trek lore. Based on that alone, I don't think that is ignoring previous Trek lore. I think that they did address issues like these in the past. And they did have, I think that we saw a slave race in complete use in, what was it, Dear Doctor? Where they had the Mark I's mining stuff, you know? So, yeah. What, slavery is just a U.S. thing? No, slavery is different for the United States and our culture and the way it's impacted. I'm not going to get into an argument with you whether it's fair or not or justified or not, but that is true. It's not unfair to say U.S. slavery or people in the United States look at slavery differently or have a different response to it. I don't think that's unfair. Starfleet, Ensign Ricky, Starfleet's worst enemy is its admiralty. 100%. It is, yeah. And they've done a lot of stuff like this. This is definitely not traditional Trek. It feels more like a combination of DS9 and JJ Trek. I disagree. I think it's traditional Trek. I really do. I think it's updated traditional Trek, but I think it's traditional Trek. By the way, guys, thank you so much for your giving. It's the only, especially early, at the beginning of the year, it's always hard. But I really appreciate it. All right, let's get back into it. Since it was brought up, I'm going to let a couple more comments on U.S. slavery, and then we're going to stop talking about it. Yeah, and I mean, and before we get back into it, Reggie Brooke brings up a good point. Don't forget Data's daughter and how Picard had to stand between the Admiral and Data to protect the daughter. And at first, he was all about letting the daughter go. Like, it's just... Picard in a lot of episodes is horrific, but not all. Kuma, we're going to get to that. You got to stay tuned for us to get to that, good buddy. All right. So we've went over this. I don't know if you guys have anything else to add. She's a horrific person. And a liar and everything we think media is, because, you know, it's just the way it is. All right. Again, hold on 1 second. Oh my God, I love these two. Honestly, I hope to God they stay. They're not going to. But I hope to God they stay. Joseph Petrov, I'll get this one and then we'll continue on. Sure, but why talk about Trump when the reporter talks about Romulan lives? Remember, undiscovered country and Starfleet positions on Klingons was let them die. Yeah, but the thing is, the more things change, the more they stay the same. First off, I really wasn't trying to make an allusion to Trump when it came to that. I think that's more talking about issues in Europe and immigration is what that's trying to address. But even if we looked at it from Trump, they are bringing up current world events. The fact that these world events continue to happen and continue to occur over and over and over doesn't mean they aren't occurring. It's just what it is. It's addressing current world events, and it's doing it, in my opinion, in a great way, in a way Trek is known for. All right, so the next scene we see Dodge sees Picard. The entire thing is, once she goes like all, again, Manchurian Candidate, she sees Picard and knows that she needs to go see him because inside of her, she feels like he'll protect her. Spoiler alert, she's actually a android. She has blood and DNA, but she has a positronic brain. And so it's been programmed in her to go find Picard because Picard will protect her. So that's interesting. I don't hate it. Okay, we got to stop, but that is funny, Hapisol. Okay, we need to stop, but that's funny. So she's like, la la, I got to go find him. And then they have what we've seen in the commercials, where she's like, I've been under attack. My boyfriend's dead. Everything tells me to find you. Again, it's really interesting to see how Earth has changed. It's no longer a paradise. When Picard is told that her boyfriend's dead because of an attack, he's sorry for her, but he's not surprised that crime happens on Earth. That's massively different. Now, I think it's appropriate for a post-Dominion War, post-Nemesis world. But it's just so interesting the changes that occur, you know? But I do know how the next two episodes... Well, don't spoil that. She's not made a cheesesteak, unfortunately. At all. Oh, one quick thing. Let's go back and take a look, because I want to take a look at this beforehand. Just out of a curiosity. Give me a second. Because you guys reminded me of something that I wanted to look at. All right, wait for it. Wait for it. All right. Do we get to see how they beam in? Huh. I was curious, and I'll just show you here. I know we're way past this point, but I was kind of curious if the beaming in effect would be green to kind of show that they were Romulan, because, well, spoilers, they are. But no, it doesn't, so it doesn't matter. All right, so we have the interaction between the two. He uses a phrase that I love when he's talking to her. She's like, do you think I'm crazy? He's like, well, I believe that you believe you're supposed to be here and that I can help you. She seems familiar to him, but he can't place it yet. And there's just a lot of conversation, a lot of discussion here. And let's just keep it going. He then has the dream. And here's how we know that the caretakers aren't like in his head, because someone was scared about that. But if you look right here, she actually interacts. You see she's interacting with them. So either they're an illusion to her too, or it's not, or they're actual real people. I think they're real. God, I hope they stay. We then see the scene we saw beforehand, which interestingly enough, and this is another thing, and I think Bird of Prey brought this up. Yeah, I hated that decaf comment. That was stupid. But anyway, here's an interesting piece now. They're both in their TNG era. Hold on. Their TNG era uniforms. Now, there could be a couple of pieces to that. First off, this was when the painting was given to him, so maybe that's why it was. That really, and besides the fact that it's a dream, that really is the only two justifications that I could see for them being in this uniform and not in the other. By the way, those uniforms are excessively uncomfortable. I bought ones that, what I bought was a shirt, but it was still near to what they had. when they were filming it, when they were filming TNG. Oh my God, those things are so uncomfortable. Where did they get those huge ship models from? I don't know. I think Picard being surprised by the idea of crime on Earth is not that big of a deal, considering how tied in he was to Admiral. Well, no, I disagree. I think that no crime happening on Earth and then suddenly crime happening, I think that's a big deal. I think that's something impactful. I think it's worth noting. I didn't like that Data was in the first contact uniform in 10 Forward. We discussed this, Rock Solid. I don't know if you were there or not. It's not... So... And I hate to repeat myself because I know some people are actually have watched this from the beginning. So he's a man that has regrets. He's a man that misses Data, doesn't want the game to end. And so Bird of Prey actually brought this up. This wasn't even my idea because I didn't even notice it. But Bird of Prey brought up a good argument that it's his regrets that he doesn't want him to go. And so that's why he was in that uniform. I do think it was the Enterprise D because it was nostalgia that he wanted to be back to the good old days, which the Enterprise D would reflect that for him. No, there's no reason to be sorry, Rock Solid. I was just letting you know. It's not bad. Ask questions if you guys want to. We can rehash. We love talking about this stuff. Ensign Ricky brings up another good point. So, and I wish I'd thought of that, but I didn't. So they kind of discuss why he left Starfleet, and he says he left Starfleet because it wasn't Starfleet anymore. I was really worried about that point because I felt like before I saw this, they were going to turn to Starfleet into something it wasn't. But this all makes sense to me. Now, they may destroy it in future episodes, but at least for this episode, Starfleet starts making an armada to go save the Romulans. That's very Starfleet. And then the synthetics rise up, the synths rise up and destroy Utopia Planitia, kill 100,000 people, and Starfleet says, well, we tried. Not our problem. Go talk to the Klingons or whoever else. Dominion, whoever. Not our problem. That is very Starfleet Admirals. That is very Starfleet Admirals in a reactive Federation Council. We have seen that historically in Star Trek. So that is something they absolutely would do. And Picard saying, that's garbage. We shouldn't be doing that. We should help these people. This is not the Starfleet I joined, is very Picard. If you were going to write Starfleet's fall from grace and Picard no longer trusting Starfleet, that's how you should do it. That right there. Again, same people that wrote Discovery. What the hell happened? You guys are so talented. You can write... I will say this, based on this episode, and if it keeps going like this, these writers can write as well as any Star Trek writer that ever has. Lisa Klink is one of my favorite writers on Trek. Now, notably because I think she's an awesome person. I've talked to her in real life. But I think it's on par with writing that she's done. And she's written some great ones and some bad ones. So I really think that this shows that the writers, when they want to write Trek, and they want to write Trek that goes away from what we expect Trek to be, they can do it. So what the hell happened with Discovery? It only makes me more frustrated at Discovery. Will Captain Kirk warn him not to be an animal? Maybe he will. Maybe he will. What happened with Discovery was Patrick Stewart wasn't a leading influence. Maybe. I feel that the guys who wrote Discovery just really wanted to write a 24th century Star Trek series, but were kind of stuck with 23rd century prequel. No, when I say that, I don't mean how they write, the bias, the politics, the social influences, and the way things work it feels completely different. I would have never known if I hadn't looked it up and hadn't knew before that this was the same people that wrote Discovery. I have fed the cat. The cat, well, I didn't. My kids have. All right, let's keep going. He then realizes that Daj is actually... Daj is like a daughter of Data's. Lol. As I said it at the beginning, guys. I called it. Lol. She looks like Lol. That's who she reminds me of. You put her right next, she has Lol. Anti-Tracker didn't believe it. He said he saw the resemblance, but he doesn't think so. Others didn't believe it. I called it. I told you. So she's not Lol, but she still is. I don't even know that she's the daughter of Data, but she's the inspiration of Data. So then we have him going, and well, before that, she runs away. He doesn't know where she is. And so he decides to go to the archives, right? The locker room, as you guys like to call it. And in the locker room, we have a lot of TNG stuff, a lot of, what are they, Easter eggs, I guess? A lot of people like Easter eggs. I don't, that doesn't bother me. We have the first ship right there. And then we keep it going. He looks around. Nobody really guessed this, but I'm not sure how you could. So you have Klingonese. Is that a Voyager in the top left-hand corner? No, that's the Sovereign. That's the Enterprise E in the top left-hand corner. To the right, I'm guessing that's Shakespeare. Right bottom is Shakespeare. Maybe you guys know what that is. The archives do remind you of... They do remind you of the Star Wars archives, don't they? Storage Wars. Yeah, it's the Stargazer. You're right. What the hell was that? Hold on. Wait for it. Right there in the top left-hand corner. It's a degree for something. He's got several degrees. Huh. Intriguing. The fact that their paper is intriguing too. So here's another return. Here's something they did that I think is a lot better than even Nemesis or First Contact. When you look at all the stuff that's paper, so you look at the different degrees, you look at the book. It's not space age book. You don't see like bright colored things around it or fancy tape or anything like that. It's just you remember the symbols. The plastic symbols that apparently were also metal. You don't have any of that stupid stuff. It's very Picard. Hi. What's up? You've been fed. Don't lie to him. It's very Picard that he would have these old style things. Because he always did. He always enjoyed it. He was an archaeologist before. And so he would enjoy stuff like that. You have the Captain Picard Day, which is pretty cool. I think that's pretty awesome. A good callback there, though I don't know how. Forgot we got a shot of TNG Worf during the interview. Forgot we got a shot of TNG Worf. I don't know what you're talking about. Did we? Can you expand on that, Rock Solid? For me, please. We keep going. There was a Easter egg here that wasn't... He's got the captain's yacht there. I don't know why in the hell he'd have that. He has the statue. Remember that statue he threw down? These are some nice Easter eggs. I think this is the place where all the Easter eggs go to die. Honestly. Because you see Easter eggs throughout, but this is really, again, where a lot of Easter eggs go to die, as I stated. Do you guys see anything else here that I haven't noted? It's really intriguing to me. Nothing really stands out beyond that. I think they've changed some stuff, or they removed some stuff. In the trailers, they had different items that did not look like what we see here. When Picard is being interviewed during the intro slide, we see a shot of Worf next to Picard in classic TNG makeup. He's not a Klingon. Okay, I don't remember that. When Picard is being interviewed. Huh. I'll have to take a look at that. I don't remember seeing that. Yeah, I mean, I was surprised as you, Geode, that they're actually capable of competent work. I was as surprised as you. The D is hanging on the wall. I don't see the Enterprise D. Where is it? Oh, the lens flares. Yeah. Where's the D? I don't see it at all. I mean, I believe you. I just don't see it. Maybe you're... No, can be to the left. All right. All right. What's that stuff on the shelves on the right? That looks... nothing... That was what I was saying. Nothing of that really sticks out to me. It just looks like awards or medals or stuff. It could be speaking to everything he did once he left Starfleet. I honestly don't know. I honestly don't. All right. We'll keep it going. Keep it moving, folks. Keep this gravy train going. Then you see that they're in the archives. Blah, 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 blah. Nothing really crazy there. And then you have the actual painting that Data did, which, again, it shows Dodge. I don't think we know he painted. I don't think we ever saw this actual painting. It would be kind of cool if they took a painting of his that they found in the original TNG series and kind of modified it or used it. I don't ever remember this one, but I think that would add a lot to it. We need to sell some Eagle Moss models. Put them in... Yeah, they do look a lot like Eagle Moss models. I'd be surprised if they weren't Eagle Moss. For sure. Let's see. You said when he's talking to the archive. Oh, there it is. I didn't even notice that. Look at that. Look at that right there. Yeah, it's hanging right there. That's a huge model, too. It looks like one I used to have when I was a kid. I wondered if Kirk, Sisko, or Janeway have their storage from their adventures. Probably. I love the device that protects the painting. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, too. It was one of the things where it was there just to look cool as tech, but it's something that I think could exist. Did it strike you as odd that the bad guys seemed to be able to just beam around willy-nilly? They were firing phased light weapons and not triggering any security response. That actually did not surprise me, Geode. It's an interesting question. They're in the middle of the city, and I would say that transporters probably happen all the time, unless Starfleet, unless the Federation is very dystopian and doesn't allow movement without the permission of Starfleet or some civil authority. The use of transporters doesn't surprise me, and the use of weapons doesn't surprise me either. They used weapons on ships, like the Enterprise D, the Enterprise E, DS9. People would transport onto these military vessels, or these vessels protected by Starfleet, and have weapons. So them being able to do it on Earth doesn't surprise me at all. Now, what is interesting to me, so I talked about this at the beginning, and if you didn't see it, or if you didn't think about it, I'm not surprised. But the interesting piece is that the police or whoever, Starfleet, who would investigate this stuff, all of this is trackable and traceable. So them using a transporter and the use of phased light weapons or phasers or disruptors would mean that all of that could be easily traced with a tricorder. So even if these things are unrestricted or could be used, it would be easy to really try to determine what's going on and to find out where or how they came. So the Sisko is still one with the Prophets? I don't know. Maybe he is. Then you have, so look at this. This is another piece. This shows the degradation of Earth. This shows that it is a different place. It's not clean. Again, interestingly, when you look at a lot of Earth, it uses a lot of darks. It uses a lot of grays, a lot of blacks, a lot of browns. You have rust on a door, and apparently it's a regular door. You have graffiti. You have the semblance of dirt. And it really shows how Earth has fallen, because this wouldn't have existed in DS9's Earth or TNG's Earth. This is a post-Dominion War. This is a post-Nemesis, a post-Hobus event, where basically the evolved humans, the filth, the grime, the negative has come back. But I think that it makes sense. I think that this is what would happen after the Dominion War. That's why I don't have an issue with it. So, for instance, if they set Star Trek Picard, it couldn't be Star Trek Picard, but if they set a series that had this same look, and they did it like right after TNG, I probably would have issues, because it doesn't make sense. But I kind of think it does here. Now, if you guys disagree, I'm open to that, but I really do. Hopefully we'll never see Wesley again. That's my answer to you. I would think the hack security protocol, but that's my thinking. Oh, talking to using the transporters and stuff. Well, here's another thing too, though, and it's really dystopian and it's coming up. I tell you what, let's put a pin in that. Good morning, Carlos. Let's put a pin in that. Let's come back to it when it comes to how they got away with that, because there are some interesting things that come to it. So let's just put a pin in that. Wait for it. Wait for it. She talks to her mom, who instantly knows everything that's going on, which doesn't make any sense. And her mom uses some kind of or hypnotizing trick or something to trigger within her. And so it really tells you that something's going on. By this time, I don't think we know she's an android yet. Maybe we do. Well, yeah, because they do. They've alluded to it very heavily. So, interesting. I was just looking at this because you have B21. I want to know if that stood for anything. I think that may be B4. I don't think there's anything in here. So she tells Dodge, hey, you got to find Picard. Picard's going to protect you, right? The Admiralty served in the Dominion War. They are not explorers. They are battle-hardened warriors now. I'd agree with that, Darth Revan. Yeah, Mom's a safeguard program. I'd agree with that. I think Mom would be a safeguard program. So she tells him, you got to find Picard. And then all of a sudden, she starts hacking Starfleet's military net and gaining access. And then she discovers where he is. It's a trippy and cliche scene transition they do, but I actually like it personally. But let's talk about that a second. Hold on. So she accesses Starfleet Command. She bypasses their systems, and she's able to, at this point, locate Picard. Here's something I really want to get to on this, and it kind of goes back. Wesley does not need to come back. Wesley needs to stay far away. I hate that Will Wheaton has any role in this. All right. Let's talk about this for a second. So, when she finds him, he's like, how did you find me? How did you find me? Oh my God, you couldn't have been able to find me. You don't have access to find me. There's a couple of things here. First off, she could have just got lucky. But let's ignore the fact that he automatically knows she hacked the system. Picard knows that he can be found anywhere on planet. that he is being tracked. In the Starfleet database, not Starfleet database, but with Starfleet and the Starfleet sensors, they are constantly tracking Picard. And assumably everybody else on planet. Picard is not only okay with this, he just glosses over it. Think about that. No matter where you are, no matter who you are, no matter what privacy you think you deserve, Starfleet and the Federation always know where you are on planet. And the pinnacle of humanity, the evolved human, the man who stands up for all rights everywhere, is okay with that. That's scary as hell to me. It also kind of goes back to the point of when she's attacked and being watched. If we put those together, it would seem that Starfleet tracks your every movement, but not what's going on with you personally. Which is an interesting idea. Now, let's go ahead and address it. I know that sensors have the... Well, no. You know what? This is the first time we've ever actually seen it. Because usually in TNG, DS9, Voyager, to find them, they know that there are humans there, but they don't know who it is. They know there are a certain amount of people, but they don't know exactly who they are. No, she pinpoints and finds him on a dime. Sensors have gotten so good. Either they have tracking systems on them some way inside of them, or sensors are so good that you know exactly where someone is. So if you're on a Starfleet planet, or at a minimum Earth, they know who you are and where you are. Now, for me and my American ideals, and someone who prides privacy, even though I have nothing to hide, my private life is quite boring, I still think that I should have it. That's dystopian as all hell. Think about that. And that's an interesting commentary right there. Again, I don't think they did that on purpose, but I still think that that's kind of an interesting commentary. And I'd be curious your guys' opinions on that. And we'll stop for just a second so I'm not just hearing myself. Federation nanny state at its best. Yeah. Wouldn't Starfleet be tracking him simply because he's former admiral? I don't think so. And even then, I still disagree. Him being an admiral, doesn't mean he loses his privacy. Picard is probably desensitized from it because spent 20 plus years on a ship where you could literally ask a computer. Yeah, but the thing about that is if you ask a computer, they track the comm badge, not the person. I buy sensors being that much better over time. Well, that's fine. But again, the fact that they can, you know. Though in TNG DS9 Voyager episodes, I thought it was because of the comm badge. It is because of the comm badges. Joe Clarity has an interesting point. Maybe the sensors have always been that good, but post DS9 they finally took off the gloves. That would, if they had given some kind of explanation that it could do that and they chose not to, I could see them taking the gloves off, but it could be that you never really leave Starfleet and you give up certain rights to non-trackable privacy. That would have huge issues, no matter how you explain it. No matter how you go about it. He should deserve his privacy, at least in my opinion. I think privacy is one of the most valued rights people should have. And while I understand that you have to give up some of it for freedom, you just do for safety, that you should covet it to the degree that it can be coveted. So, Darth Revan, you can find what you want about Americans online. Sure, but can you find exactly where that American is? Reggie Brock, in my opinion, something like that can be good. However, it would have to be so locked down and perfect system to prevent anything wrong, but that's but that's nearly, if not actually, impossible. Yeah, I mean, you know, the best system of government that we could have is a benevolent dictator who always knew the best choice to go. If we had a benevolent dictator that always knew the right choice to make, that would be much better than a democracy. Unfortunately, that's not how dictatorships work. I get what you're saying, but it just doesn't. All right. Privacy is tricky when you're constantly dealing with internal and external. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Let's see. One more. Here's the thing that is odd to keep in mind. The Federation is tons of member worlds with hundreds of different species. Do you think that anyone that was against the vision of the Federation would be stopped or stood up against? Maybe. I don't know if Federation citizens had... I don't think they did. I don't think Federation citizens, all of them, had comm badges. I don't know. Maybe. He doesn't have a comm badge, I don't think. And, you know, even then, let's even say that it's because of comm badges. Let's say that they were all wearing comm badges and they can't find them instantly. It's still comm badges. They are so desensitized and willing to wear comm badges to give up their privacy. I mean, it would work just like phones. That would be a better allegory. I'd get that. But I don't think we have any real reason to believe that either. I don't know. All right. Let's keep at it, shall we, gents? And ladies, gentesses, as they say in the Latin. So they're talking. She says she can hear people away. She's activating. She's becoming an actual droid. Then we have the battle scene that we see before. And she's just beating the living hell out of them, as we see before. Give me a second. I mean, she's just killing them left and right, too. I mean, murdering them. Hold on a second. So, some people got upset about Romulans spitting acid or whatever. So, I don't think they gave the Romulans the ability to spit acid. What I think is that these are top operatives sent by probably the Tal Shiar or someone within the Romulans. And their objective was to... their objective was to capture her, but if they couldn't, it was to kill her. And so I think that he probably, as you see, he bites down on something. So I'm betting he had an acid capsule, like in his teeth or something like that, which, by the way, oh my God, I would hate. What if you get hit in the jaw? Ugh. But anyway, he hits that, and then he spits some form of acid on her, which hits the weapon, causes it to explode. The battle between them, I don't really necessarily have an issue with. At first, I kind of did, because again, they were making it Superwoman. But now in context, with her being a robot, an android, beating the living hell out of people, it kind of makes sense to me. So I can see that. It was well choreographed. It was beautiful to watch. Picard being winded and Picard not being able to keep up with her, I have a couple... I don't know. I'm mixed on that. Because that just shows that Picard no longer should be doing this, in my opinion. And it was done on purpose that he couldn't keep up with her, but I don't know. That, for me, when it showed that he really is an old man that is getting into more than he can chew, I don't know. Yosef Petrick, you're a few feet from Anti-Trekker. I know that. I don't know what you're talking about, Yosef. You mean in if we liked it or not? That would be consistent. He also lives near me. Oh yeah, her huge jump that she did was pretty fun. Romulans are also known for genetic and bio modification, so could have stuck some kind of acid sac in there. It's possible. He hits himself though, which makes me think that it was that it wasn't bioengineered into him, because it seems like him using it screwed himself over as well. Zimiko, after the changeling infiltration of Earth, Paradise Lost, and DS9, I think it probably makes more sense for the Federation to develop more accurate on-world sensors to detect any future attempts. You know, I don't disagree that that would be the thinking. I don't disagree that they would probably try to do it so they could pinpoint anyone anywhere at any time. It's still dystopian in its privacy issues. I'm not sure what the answer to that is, though, to be honest with you. If someone was said, hey, there are aliens that can change who they look like and forces that can inhabit people, and they could kill all of us. And while we can't, our best chance to stop it, and even this is a toss of the coin, is to be able to track everyone. Are you okay with that, or are you willing to have your freedom to let everyone die on the planet, including your kids? I don't know the answer to that, but I think that's fair. They weren't spitting acid. He ate Ensign Shell's warp core meltdown. Well, that's fair enough. Will Wheaton has historically and consistently been a jerk who thinks he's better than other people, and puts other people down. And if you don't believe what he believes, he thinks you're wrong and that you should be deplatformed and possibly jailed. Also, Wesley was a horribly written character. I don't like either of them. Someone just asked me why I don't like Wesley. Now, there is a point here. She's not a Romulan clone. No, she's an android. Now, hold on, let's get to it. Spoilers, she dies. You have an explosion that should kill him, by the way. I get that it's the 25th century, humans have evolved, and you have the Federation medical technology and all that. He should probably be dead. I'm going to say this. I do like this episode. I do like where they're going with Star Trek Picard. And I'm willing to bet that probably there's going to be an explanation for this. But here's the thing. Hold on. So everything explodes. He goes flying. He should be dead. We get flashbacks. And then the next scene is him waking up on his couch surrounded by his caretakers. Now, they have technology that can pinpoint where Picard is. They know exactly how to find him. They are able to determine that he needs help. There was a massive fight on what looks like to be the top. I think they were on the archives or the museum. And then a weapon detonates on top. He's not in a hospital. He's not being talked to by any cops. His caretakers tell him that the cops saw him running on screen. They didn't see Dodge because she has some kind of personal cloaking tech, whatever. They see him running, and then they just bring him back. A terrorist attack or some kind of assault occurred. None of that is brought up. None of that has any kind of conversation. And he doesn't even question it. That's a misstep from hell. Even if they explain that it was a cover-up in the next few episodes, which they may, which would explain why it never comes up from the cops or whatever. And again, a cover-up. There was a huge explosion. I think you guys saw where I showed. It was a massive explosion. So how you cover that up, I don't know. But him not questioning it is probably the only misstep for me. And I don't buy that nobody noticed the explosion. It was a huge explosion, and I think it happened on the top of the Starfleet archives. Federation archives. Yeah, exactly. To Bad Words point. Explosion near Starfleet HQ involving a former admiral, hero of the Federation. This guy is known wherever he goes. The episode does build that up, and everyone's free to go home. That's kind of weird. It's kind of odd. Don't understand it. Starfleet has a weird sense of defense. He's a former admiral and a hero of the Federation. Yeah, maybe terrorist attacks every day now, so no one cares. That's the only massive misstep. And it's such a misstep that I can't see them not addressing it in the next couple episodes. Because it is an amazing plot hole. It is something that makes no sense. Because people are asking, Will Wheaton never did anything to me personally. I've never met him personally. He just has gone out of his way to attack people who don't agree with him, to put them down, to think they are other. He thinks he's superior than other people. And if you go look at his Twitter or his YouTube channel, you'll be able to confirm that. I don't associate with people who think they're better and aren't open to ideas. So, yeah. Another explosion at a Starfleet archive. Have we seen this before? There was a massive explosion, but if Starfleet is facilitating these strike teams, I don't think Starfleet is behind the strike teams. I do think Starfleet may cover it up. It was all a dream, says that would have been great if he said it was all a dream. He wakes up, he's like, I had the weirdest dream, and you were there, and you were there, and you were there. But, even though that's a massive plot hole, and really the only plot hole to it, because they could explain it in future episodes, is him not questioning it. He's like, I was a part of an explosion, and no one asks any questions. Okay. But, him not asking any questions or questioning it himself, I think is the biggest part. We saw it into Darkness. Well, that's fine. I mean, that's not the same universe, though. I would expect him to be in some kind of secure Starfleet hospital room and have Starfleet security. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. I guess we'll just go on that one more time. This, again, is the hero of the Federation, an ex-admiral. An explosion happens near him. I would expect Starfleet security and intelligence to be all over that. I would expect Picard, I'd expect his caretakers not to be able to get to him. In fact, that could have been a great scene with the caretakers. The caretakers we know are former Tal Shiar, most likely. And it would have been cool if he was locked down more than Fort Knox. And they show up. And he's like, how'd you get here? And they're like, you remember? We're former Tal Shiar. We have our ways of getting around Starfleet security. That would have been a cool little scene. And I think it would have added stuff to it. But maybe it's explained in future episodes. I'm not going to destroy it right here. But it's a massive plot hole that makes no sense. And I hope they explain it. It's the only real dark spot in that. That said, this scene... Sorry, I need to stop reading comments. That said, this scene has the biggest plot hole, and yet, I think, has one of the greatest lines. And the episode has been kind of building up, and we see Picard, and he really is just going through the motions. He's an elderly man that has he's done his life, and he's done. And he says something to the effect, it's not this, but he says something to the effect, I came here to die and not to live. And so now he wants to live. He wants to go and do something about it. I think that'd be awesome. Rock Solid, that'd be a great... I think that was an awesome scene. Sorry. I'm a little tired. I woke up at 3 to watch this. 3 a.m. in the morning to watch this for you guys. I think that'd be a good recut, though, Rock Solid. I need to recut that explosion. It fades to white and it says, "Welcome to the afterlife, Jean-Luc. You're dead." Oh, Rock Solid, if you don't do it, I'm going to do it. I might do it today, so you got to beat me to it, sir. Unless you don't want me to really do it. Because I want to do that now. Well, that is also a good point. And it may show us in future episodes. We have no idea what information on Hillary Clinton Jean-Luc had. So maybe this was an attack by the Clintons and he just knew too much. Maybe that's what it is. All right, let's get back to it. It's funny because everyone who ever goes up against the Clintons dies. God, that's real life too. Welcome to reality, folks. All right. All right. So we go to the Daystrom Institute, which is in Okinawa, which is kind of interesting. I like, some people may not, but I like that all of these different places that we've heard of and people have talked about are all over Earth. It's not all based in the United States. I think that's cool. I think it's realistic. And by the way, you're absolutely, are you? Look at that. Those do look like TNG shuttles. They don't look like them. How you like me now? That's pretty cool. Though it makes no sense for them to be TNG shuttles. Let's all be honest with each other. My skit with Ramirez can mention the explosion. I should do that. All right. So then we meet Kaylee, Star Trek's Kaylee. It was my understanding that she was going to be a drug addict. I don't know where I got that from. What's going on, DJ? I always thought that she was going to be a drug addict, but I guess not. Before we go back, going to the explosion. Alternatively, what if they show that as the explosion happened, Picard was beamed away to a Starfleet medical facility? I think that would have been interesting. They would have had to address it. Like we saw on Censors, something happened and immediately we beamed you over. That would have gone back to the dystopian aspects, but that would have been really cool to do as well. I like this character. I think she's adorable. I think she is fun. I think the character is what she's meant to be. She's supposed to be, to a degree, I guess, kind of a comic relief, and I think she plays it really well. There's not a whole lot to this when it comes to the scenes, though. They talk about robotics. They talk about how robotics was shut down after the synths went crazy, how it's a ghost town. Nobody uses anything. They can only talk about it in theory. They can't do any kind of actual discussions. We hear how Maddox had created or talked about creating another lull, essentially. And we find out that the necklace that Dahj had, which came from her father, was the symbol that he used. And so it kind of just gives us some background showing that Dahj was there. Maddox had something to do. He's now on the run. Or not on the run, but he's disappeared and they can't find him. So here's the necklace they show. There's one piece, again, that doesn't make any sense to me in this either. In this, before we see him, I see it, Bill Barkley. I got what you're talking about. Oh, they also talk about that, though. We see B4. So that's not Data. That's B4. He was deconstructed. The transfer over didn't really happen, or it didn't take. I wouldn't be surprised if in future episodes they reprogram him and Data actually comes back. Uh, and so I guess it's interesting before being there. Are they making a reference to 1984 in what aspect? Do you think Picard will ultimately set the stage for the renaissance of the Tal Shiar and the unfortunate downfall of Section 31 leading into a divided Federation? I don't know that the downfall of Section 31 will occur. The downfall of the Federation may. I still think the time agents are Section 31. Now, here's a piece that doesn't make any sense to me. One second. Now we find out that they're created in pairs, so Dodge has a sister. And hold on. So the one thing that I get the symbolism, but the two rings that we see in the necklace is also a part of this nebula. Why? That just doesn't make any sense to me. It ties them together and it opens up the other scene, but it's not logical. We also start seeing Star Trek Online ships, so I hope you guys like those. They said if they had even one positronic neuron from Data, they could rebuild him. I didn't know that. I think them creating in pairs was lame and lazy storytelling. Possibly. I don't see any reason for it necessarily, like you said. But yeah. Now, here is where marketing for Trek, the marketing of Trek, goes to hell in a handbasket. Here is where it all ultimately fails. This entire last scene right here, the Romulan reclamation site, and then you see the conversation with the new Dodge 0, with definitely not evil Romulan person. That's interesting. We see her. She has the same symbols or whatever. Again, obviously not evil Romulan guy here who's not going to be doing evil things. All of this is interesting. And it doesn't tell you where it is. Now, we never should have gotten any indication of the Borg. They overshowed. This scene right here is the perfect ending. And if you didn't know about the Borg, it would have guaranteed that this would have been loved by almost everybody. Because after they get done talking, they do that pull-out. Now, that's a trope and a cliche in and of itself, right? But you do this pull-out, and you have no idea. I mean, because we know it's Borg, we see the technology, and you can kind of somewhat garner it, right? But hold on. You're just gonna let Agnes here hitch a ride on. Look at this. Look at all this. You have no idea. It's doing all of this pulling out until you ultimately see it's a Borg cube. This should have been the reveal. This should have this should have been what the reveal is. We should have never known about the Borg. Sorry, it was playing in my ear. Why would they be made in pairs? I don't know why they'd be made in pairs. I think you could have done 7 of 9 without bringing in the Borg, but I think that was a misstep. So, overall, it was probably the best opener episode. They could have hyped Jerry, but not Hugh. Well, no, they could have hyped Harry and Hugh. You don't know why the hell he's there. You don't know what's going on. You could have still said Hugh has returned and not told them that there's a friggin' Borg cube the Romulans have. I don't know, Lord. That Romulan definitely looks like very trustworthy man. What are you confused about, Bruno? You make a duplicate copy when it comes to girls. I don't. When it comes to the robots, I don't want Vedic Kira. I don't think Kira should have ever been Vedic. In the Shatnerverse, an alliance of Borg and Romulans resurrect Kirk. Oh my God, Shatner wrote some pretty horrific books. Really bad. How did you hurt your forehead? There is a mark on it. That mark has always been there. It's a scar, so I appreciate you pointing that out. Yeah, it's a chickenpox scar. Thanks so much. I'm glad you made. Did you also know I have a weight problem? We could talk about that too while we're at it. Yeah, he already answered it, buddy. I appreciate that. Are the Borg cubes supposed to be that massive? Yeah, they were always supposed to be that massive. What are the two rings exactly? What rings are you talking about, good friend? Let me go back and look. Whoop. Rings. Oh, hold on. Let me stop that real quick. As much as I love DMCAs... Yeah, a lot of Star Trek Online vessels. I don't know what rings you're talking about. Too much cheesesteak. Oh, the necklace rings? I think they're just supposed to show that they're twins or something. I don't think there's much more to it than that. Maybe there is. You know, I'm not a huge fan of the theme music either. I enjoyed the Shatnerverse books, at least the first couple. It started to get weak when Tiberius came in. Okay. If they're bringing back Q, will they also bring in lore? I think lore was destroyed. Yep, you're right, Live. It's I'm actually not me. I'm someone else. I'm waiting for people at CBS to actually start using their imagination again and start something new. I don't know. I think this was pretty new. I think this was old but new. I think there was kind of a return there, in my opinion. Now, there were a couple of things. Let's see if we've addressed them. Talked about that. Discuss Starfleet pulling out when evil comes up. We've kind of discussed that. That is within their wheelhouse. The Dodge and Picard escape scene. Picard's Romulan servants comment that the recording only showed Picard. Irremotic syndrome. Is he nuts? We already discussed that. I don't think he's nuts. I think I think she exists because we see other people interacting with her. We already talked Picard losing faith and Data resurrection. So we already talked about all that. It's been a long time getting from there to here. He might be resurrected. Maybe they bring him back to help out. That would be intriguing. Oh. Did you hear the Balance of Terror theme in the episode? I didn't. I didn't even know there was a balance. Balance of Terror. Yeah. A Borg cube is 3 by 3 by 3 kilometers, not miles. I made that mistake. All right, guys. Do you have any other thoughts? Anything else you want to add before I take another break? I'm sure they're going to bring the Borg Queen in some way. Just got in. Quick question. Did they shove their real-world politics in the show heavy-handedly? I don't think they did, Asher. I think they actually were pretty subtle about it. It's one of the great things about it. Is the Sovereign class less equipped than the Galaxy class for deep space? I would say the Galaxy is probably better at deep space exploration than that of the Sovereign, yes. I love how they dovetailed the synthetic standing from Voyager. Remember the Mark Ones were sharing the Doctor's novel. A resistance movement for the rights would make sense. I think that they don't know why the synthetics went rogue. I'm betting it's Romulan interference. I'd bet you money. Oh, did you? I didn't see that. No, I believed you. You didn't have to send me a thing. But yeah, so they actually showed Worf. So here's another piece too. Let me share this here. Yeah, I'd watch it. Oh, I can't share it because it's an address. I have to share it here. So they have the original Klingons here. They don't have the updated ones. Check the link. Yo, it's real cool. Look back at Balance of Terror. The main view screen zoomed in on the Romulan commander's face. The view screen and TOS are kind of more advanced than we think. Yeah, the view screens have always been holoprojectors. 3D holoprojectors. So if you stand at one side, you'll see the side of the face. They've always been 3D. Q's not in it. I don't think we're going to see Q. Be interesting if we did. So, the Borg does have a gelato machine. In fact, that's where she was talking to the definitely not evil Romulan. So, I would say the only reason why I don't suggest buying it yet is because Discovery has lied to us in the past and had great episodes that made you think they were going somewhere. If I could be assured that the rest of Picard was going to be like this episode, I would say, hell yes. Definitively pay for it. It's worth watching. But, I don't know. Oh, when the not at all evil Romulan walks in, they play Balance of Terror. That is called a leitmotif. In filmmaking, a leitmotif can be utilized to show danger when it's not present. And generally, in fact, it may not be a leitmotif the more I think about it. Generally, it's used to show that a character is there when not on screen. Did they ever resolve the difference between the Klingon appearance problem? Not really. They tried, but not... I think it's definitively a nod to the original Trek. I think it's worth watching. I think that if you liked Nostalgia Trek, you'll probably like this. Probably. I'm going to get my haircut today, guys. I know you guys are super excited about that. I am. Because I look like garbage to you guys. Because you always tell me. All right. Leitmotif. I don't know if that's how you say it or not, sir. All right. Well, I wondered about the size of the ratio of the Borg cubes because they seem to have enough space in the repurposed cube to fit lots of Romulan starships. Well, I mean, the cubes were massive. So, yeah, they would have the ability. All right. So, I guess that is where we are going to go with that. Did you guys have anything else you wanted to add before we got off for now? Any hard-hitting questions? I was watching your Discovery Lessons Learned vid, and I don't know if this was mentioned before, but you missed two things. First, that you are on the E to D, Enterprise D, in the first scene. Thought it was a dream, though it was a dream. Yeah, I talked about that. Discovery Lessons Learned. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh, you're talking about the other one? Yeah, I wasn't given spoilers. That's why we didn't discuss it. They not only used Discovery shuttles, but they had some TNG shuttles there, too. And them using Discovery shuttles, while I disagree, I don't think they should be there, doesn't change anything. It's still canon and in continuity. Don't forget to put my money into the makeup fund. Oh, yeah. I'll do that. I'll do that right now. I hate you, Yosef. All right. Got you set up. All right. Guys, I don't know that I'll be doing another live one. I may try to get a video out. I don't know. But beyond that, I want to thank you guys so much for watching. Really can't do it without your support. So thank you so much. As always, don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe, guys. I'm going to see you on the next Lore Reloaded.